Hello, amazing, intuitive people, healers, and everyone that is sensitive to those around them. I'm going to continue yesterday's topic or last time's topic on relationships because relationships are that important. As I mentioned, over the last 80 years, top universities such as Johns Hopkins, Yale, and Harvard have done research on what has extended the life, the health, and even the wealth of people. And there are 8 factors, and the number one factor is relationships. And we are designed as humans to connect to other people because it is a matter of survival. And there are 11 to 14 ways to connect depending on how you group these connections together. And last time I talked about your cords, which are lines of energy that come basically that start from your heart and goes to the heart of all the other people around you. And that is the bond of unconditional love. So, and we talked also about how to release those. And today what I'm going to talk about is what happens when you first meet someone and how you form what I'd call contracts and agreements. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what those are, what are harmful ones, and how you can redo them. So stay tuned to hear more. This is Anastasia. I used to be a physics professor specializing in vibrational and quantum physics. After recovering from a serious illness using energy healing on myself, the calling to heal became so strong that I had to quit my 40-year research career. I replaced my 6-figure professor's salary within 5 months using a simple but not easy 3-step system that I worked out to grow my healing practice. Now I help other healers grow their practices, whether they're just starting or already have a practice, with this same 3-step system. I'm all about helping you too. Listen in to learn more. Thank you so much for coming back. Today's topic is about contracts and agreements that you form with other people. And a lot of times those kinds of contracts and agreements are things that happen to you. For example, if you're born into a family, you have a contract or an agreement with your mother that she's going to take care of you and you will follow basically her or your dad's instruction so you can learn. And as you grow up, as you mature, the interactions between you and your parents and even your siblings change and adjust as you mature, change and adjust. But what if that doesn't happen? There are some things that you can do that help you evolve, and a lot of times people resist change. They do not want you to evolve and move past where you are now, and they'll keep trying to hold you back, right? So these are parts of the contracts and agreements. People are by nature conservative, in case you haven't noticed, is that we want things to be the same, but they never are. And I remember 30 years ago when my life was changing dramatically, some days I would look up and I'd say, God, is there a day where I cannot have so much change? Because the ground felt like it was moving out from under me so quickly that I had to run very quickly to stay upright. And sometimes I didn't manage, right? So during that time, that's when my particular contracts and agreements with others had to change dramatically, or I would cease to exist because I was so sick. And the reason why I was so sick was not because I didn't take good care of myself, but it was my relationships and how so many of those relationships weren't very healthy. And particular, the one with my mom wasn't very healthy because she could say 2 words and I'd be upset for a month, right? And so that's somebody who's controlling your life. I'm 40 something years old, and my mom had this iron grip on my feelings. So I had to learn how to let those go. So that's part of the rewriting your contracts and agreements. So it's helpful to be able to recognize what they are. But what I was mentioning earlier was what happens when you first meet someone, right? You meet someone, like when I first met my husband at that time. I first met him, it was like an instantaneous spark of recognition and attraction. And why that happens is usually because there's something very familiar about that person. And usually it is because they are a lot like what you have lived with. And in fact, he was so much like my mom that it felt very familiar. And there was something about me that he was like, he had a lot of thunder and lightning going on inside him. And I was the calm, and he wanted my calm, and I wanted more of his spark, right? So that's an imbalanced relationship, and that was one of our contracts and agreements. And there is a quick way to rewrite those, and I always do this for all my relationships. There are 4 steps. Calling back all your energy, because you give out your energy. I'm giving my energy out, speaking to you right now. The second is cutting all the cords and letting them reform as they may. Of course, the one cord you can't ever cut is the heart-to-heart unconditional love cord. But the unhealthy cords need to be released. Number 3 is rewriting your contracts and agreements. And the 4th is clearing your old karma out so you don't keep repeating old habits. And I'll talk about that next time. So today is contracts and agreements. And the way I do a healing is I ask how many contracts and agreements do you have with that person? And on average, it's about 3 or 4. Like if you're married to someone, it is, I agree to be your wife, you agree to be my husband, I agree to, there is some sort of agreement. Like with my ex-husband, I allowed him to yell at me, I stayed in the relationship, right? That it felt normal to me. And now I never allow this anymore. And with my now husband, when he would start to yell at me, and I would just say, okay, if we can't talk about it, we both need to go calm down in our corners and come back and talk. And that has evolved and changed over the 9 years I've been married to him. And we now have a very supportive, kind, and mutually respectful relationship, and that's what feels super duper comfortable to me. And so our contracts and agreements are all healthy, right? But if they're unhealthy, because like the old one, I was his calm, he was my storm, right? That is an imbalance, because I was being something that he wasn't, and he was being something that I wasn't. And now I can do both. I can be the calm and I can be the storm, right? So that's an unhealthy, imbalanced contract and agreement. And those are the ones that need to be cleared out and basically rewritten. And what I do is I imagine that there's text on an old parchment, and I let the parchment drop down the grounding cord and let it go. And then I just let the new ones form with my new, healthier vision of what that relationship is to be. And then I recall all my energy from them. I give them back their energy. and I release the cords, and that's the way it works. But you can do this by journaling. Journaling is super powerful, and you have to do it not with typing, but with a pen and paper. And you write down exactly what you want, what is and what's to be. What is now in your past and what's to be now and into your future. And when you write these all down, you bring them into being, right? You bring them into being. And as soon as you bring them into being, new behaviors will start to happen. Like when I started cutting off the old behaviors and not allowing them, the new behaviors came into being. And there's a little bit of a bumpy road and a little bit of resistance because remember, people want to keep things going on just like they were. So to summarize, contracts and agreements happen between people. They just do. And they're usually behavioral contracts and agreements, and many of them are unhealthy, especially if you are something they're not and they're something you're not, and you want each other for those two things. And you can rewrite them based on what you require the future to be for yourself in order for you to be healthy and peaceful. Remember, your relationships are your number one factor for your health, your wealth, and your happiness, including your longevity. So I hope that was helpful today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much for taking valuable time out of your day to listen in. If you found this message helpful, please help spread the word by giving the broadcast a thumbs up or a 5-star rating. Share it with your friends and be sure to subscribe to my channel with your notifications on. For further training on healing and growing your healing business using my 3-step system, go to www.highpaidhealers.com. And I'll see you in the next video.